Welcome back, everybody, to the Majlis Podcast. I'm Mansoor, and with me is Noori. All right, jumping right in. According to the migrationpolicy.org, they have an article titled Afghan Immigrants in the United States. Between 2010 and 2022, the Afghan immigrant population nearly quadrupled from approximately 54,000 to 195,000, while the overall U.S. immigrant population grew by 16%. So during that time, the overall immigration was 16%, whereas the Afghan population almost quadrupled. So what, like 400% increase?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were born here, right? Born and raised. What are your initial thoughts about that? Happy, sad, angry, mad?
About the amount of new Afghans that have come here? Or,
Yes.
I mean, I think it's only a good thing. As a proud Afghan, like, you'd like to see more Afghans here in America. I think it's been interesting, though, definitely, just growing up here in Sacramento, seeing how many Afghans have come here and how often you see them now versus back in the day where I was less common to run into an Afghan. And more likely than not, you probably knew them too. Nowadays, when I run into Afghans in Oak Grove or in Sacramento or anywhere around that area, more likely than not, I don't know them. It's my first time probably seeing them. And even for them, it's very common, and you can tell because back in the day when you run into an Afghan, you kind of both would look at each other. You'd be like, wait, you Afghan? You kind of look Afghan, you know? Now it's like Afghans see me and they just walk right past like it's like a normal thing, you know?
They don't bat an eye.
Not even. So, I mean, even I've gotten used to that, you know? Now, like when I walk past Afghans, like, oh, it's a normal thing, you know? But it wasn't always like that. So I think for me, it's been a good, like initially, it's been really good. I like seeing more Afghans in the community. I like to see our community grow as a whole. What about you?
It just reminded me like of this funny thought I always used to have as a kid. Because you know when you're a kid, like every time you see Afghans, your parents like, because usually like they were like your parents' friends or someone you knew, like your parents were like, oh, go say hi to them, say salam, like show some respect, you know. And we did. And then I always used to think like, man, if my parents ever take me back to Afghanistan, I'm going to have such a hard time, because I used to think like I was like, what am I going to do when I go to the store outside? I'm going to have to say hi to every single Afghan person that walks past me. You know, it was just, you know, it was being a kid. But now when you're older and we have such a big community here now, you realize like, well, at that point, it's not anything special anymore, you know? I mean, dude, same here. Like, not having a lot of Afghans growing up and having that, like, so many now, like, I honestly think it's like a blessing to have that community, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you grew up in you went to a high school actually that had, in my opinion, which I thought were a lot of Afghans.
Yeah.
And then I went to a high school that had like, let alone Afghans, like we barely even had any Muslims there.
Yeah.
You know, so how was that for you, and how do you think that is now? Like,
at the time, yeah, it was like, wow, so many Afghans, because there was like 10 of us. Now, from what we've heard, there's whole high schools where the majority are Afghans.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't even imagine like a high school in this country where the majority of the students are Afghan. It's honestly like mind blowing. I have no idea what to even like think.
Are you like me, right? Are you curious what it's like to go there for a day and see how that is?
I would love to go. I would love to be invisible and go to one of those high schools and just walk around, listen to conversations, go into the classroom and just observe. Like, like sociologically speaking, it's such an interesting thing, you know, because all of these kids have like a very shared background. Like, not only are they Afghan, but they all also went through this like being uprooted from the country and the like community that they were all a part of, like being uprooted out of that and then placed into this new country. But now they're still with a bunch of other Afghans, you know?
Yeah.
It's like they moved from Afghanistan to Afghanistan.
You know, now that you say that, I have an interesting story, right? I talked to an Afghan who recently came here a couple years ago, and they told me a story that kind of made me look at this in a different perspective. But just to not be super long with it, but I was talking to this guy, and I was asking him like how his experience has been in America and like how it is in school and like all the other stuff. And he told me something very interesting. He said, I came to America to feel like I live in America, but I feel like I'm living in Afghanistan still. And he was from Sacramento, you know, so I understood what he meant by that. So that was very interesting because from his perspective, I'm sure living in America has been different, obviously, you know, it's very different in the lifestyle, but like his surrounding people probably haven't changed, you know, the environment. So that was very interesting and funny. So when he told me that, I was a little shocked, but I also understood where he was coming from as well.
It's a completely different take from ours because you and me, we grew up here and we were craving that community. We were craving that connection, which we didn't have, you know. So we're on this end, like, yeah, like we're psyched to have, you know, this big community. But I can see that, you know, someone coming like, hey, I didn't come to America for this, you know. Well, that's funny because, I mean, both of us were already in the Sacramento area.
Yeah.
What were the chances? Well, let me read off this fact, actually. It's from the same article by Migration Policy. And it is the fact, okay, so the highest immigration population from Afghanistan, it's two metropolitan areas. It both says 19,000. So the Washington, Arlington, Alexandria, I think, is that the DMV? Is that what they call DMV? Yeah. So 19,000 there. And then Sacramento, Roseville, Folsom, so the larger, greater Sacramento area, also 19,000, which is like a small town.
Yeah.
You know? So there's 19,000 Afghan immigrants in the Sacramento area. And I think this only includes the immigrants. So there's a lot of people that were born here. You were born here. My nieces and nephews, tons of other kids.
Right.
So I think there's probably a lot more Afghans here, you know, way over 20,000. Interesting fact is, though, although that the DMV area and Sacramento both have 19,000, the percentage of population, when you look at it, it's 0.8% of the population in Sacramento are Afghan immigrants, whereas in DMV it's 0.3. So although the population of Afghan immigrants is the same, there's a higher percentage in Sacramento because the population here is lower.
Right, right.
So what were the chances that it was going to happen here? Like, what do you, like, that's pretty crazy.
We were just talking about this the other day in the car. Like, I don't know how the process works, but I actually do wonder how Sacramento became one of the main destinations for a lot of those immigrants and refugees to come. So I'm not sure, but I will say, I mean, of all the places in America, they probably picked a really good place because I know Afghans value good weather.
Yeah.
And that's why my family, who originally was in Chicago when they first came to America, they left Chicago because they didn't like the weather, and they came to California. And I mean, even if it's not Sacramento, just California in general, there's no wrong place to go. But I think of the major areas, SoCal, Bay Area, Sacramento probably is the most affordable. So
yep,
that probably played a factor into it. But I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, no, you're right. Afghans love their comfort. You know, they want to go somewhere that has some good organic food, some good weather. That's actually literally the reason why my family came to Sacramento was because of the weather.
The weather?
Yeah. I mean, California in general, because we were originally in New Hampshire and it used to snow and it was cold and I had, like, you know, health problems there too, like with asthma and stuff. So I think the doctor's given us an option, like go to Texas or go to California. My parents were like, all right, California it is.
But now you look back at it and you're like, if you didn't come to California, how different would you be?
Probably very different. Sammy said it the other day, you're like a product of your environment, you know?
Right.
Probably very different, but I don't know why. I feel like somehow, even if it wasn't for the whole weather and like the whole asthma situation, I feel like we somehow would have ended up here still.
You think so?
Yeah. Just because the community was getting built here.
Yeah. No, I definitely can see that, because Afghans, like it, at least like traditional Afghans, like they like being around like people they know. Yep. And like family, of course.
Mosques, right? The more people there are, there's gonna be more mosques, more opportunities for like social gatherings. I think it's just better for the like overall like mental health, sense of community, which is probably why Sacramento will continue growing, like the Sacramento and DMV area.
Yeah.
Because since it already has came out as like the two main sources of places that you can go with Afghan population, people that are in other pockets are probably gonna, you know, slowly come here. I actually met an Afghan brother in where was it? Colorado Springs one time, just a couple months ago.
He lived there?
Yeah, he lived there. I was there for work, and I was checking in at the hotel, and he was at the reception. When he was checking me in, he read my name, and he's like, "Hey, I think you're Afghan." I was like, "Yep, I'm Afghan." I was like, "You're Afghan?" He's like, "Yep." He's like, "Yeah, I moved here like a year ago. I've been working at this hotel." He's like, "Where do you live?" I was like, "I'm from Sacramento." He's like, "I'm coming there." Yeah, he's like, "I'm coming to Sacramento because it's lonely over here." And he's like, "I know people there." And so I feel like it'll probably continue to grow.
Tell me what you think, because I get those kind of folks who want to come to an area like Sacramento or Virginia where there's a bigger population of Afghans. But then I also see like there's a group of Afghans who try to get away from this, who probably were, you know, spent a lot of time in Sacramento, Bay Area, or Virginia, who their end goal is like, I want to go somewhere away, like, you know, like somewhere where there's not a lot of Afghans, maybe like Florida or somewhere in Texas. But even those places, I know there's a lot of Afghans moving there. But there's like a whole another group of Afghans who want to get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen, you run into people like that?
Yeah. I mean, like just like an anecdotal like experience of my own was another time I was in an Uber with an Afghan driver, and he told me, he's like, we used to live in this area in Sacramento, like these apartments. It was like full of all Afghans and stuff, and he's like, I didn't like that, so I moved my family out to, where did he? I think he went to Folsom or somewhere like in like that like northeastern like Sacramento area. He's like, there's not that many Afghans there. I just wanted to get away. I just wanted some personal space and privacy for my family, and that's totally understandable too. Like sometimes, it can get toxic. You know, sometimes when everybody's maybe in each other's business or everyone just knows too much about each other, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, no.
There's pros and cons, and it could be like great for some people, and it could just not work out for some people, like personal preference. But definitely, there's a lot of Afghans like that too, for sure.
No, definitely. I'm interested, you know.
I like to have like my own personal like private life, and then I love to interact with my Afghans outside of that. And then my biggest thing is I want to stay close to a community of Afghans. Like I need to be driving distance because I want that kebab, you know. I want that good food. I want to be able to like just drive and get some kebab and chop it up with somebody at the grocery store or something, you know.
Yeah, we know there's not enough Afghan markets here in Sacramento.
Yeah, we need more. There's not enough. We need so many more. You know, any Afghan that has a business idea, you should open up an Afghan market.
You know, there actually was a time in Sacramento where we didn't have a lot of markets. We didn't have a lot of options. You know, my family would go to I forgot the name of it. One place here in Elk Grove, it was like one of the only places that sold Afghan bread. You could get like anything else. And then there was that one place, East West.
East and West.
That was like the other go-to spot. But now there's so many.
Yeah.
My dad comes home every day. I went to this store. Names I've never even heard of or recognized. So I don't even know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you.
I mean, the market's probably saturated. My brother was telling me he was like looking at some website that was like that has businesses up for sale, and there's like multiple like Afghan grocery stores that are up for sale, and I mean, probably failing, probably not profitable if they're selling. I mean, I can't say all of them. Maybe someone's trying to sell and they have another great idea they want to get into and use that capital, but can't be the majority. I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I feel like they're all kind of in the same area too, so that's like the other problem.
Yeah. Competition.
Yeah.
Afghans love competition.
Live and learn. They'll see.
What do you think? What do you think about like a hypothetical scenario? 50 years from now, what is the Afghan community gonna morph into? Let's do two. Let's do two hypothetical scenarios.
Okay.
Let's do 50 years from now, and let's do 150 years from now.
50 and 150 years. Wow.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. 50. I'll answer first. I'll let you say you're 50. I think 50 years from now, I think we'll have multi-generational Afghan households.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the Afghans that will be living in America will have probably been born here. So I feel like a lot of the Afghans that we'll run into will be pretty, I don't want to say westernized, but like they'll be pretty assimilated to like the American society, the culture, kind of like how like I am, you are, while still holding that Afghan traditions as well. So I think we'll see a lot of that in terms of like how people will act, behave, and like their way of life. But I think Afghans are pretty, good and firm on like holding on to like that Afghan tradition. So I feel like Afghans won't change in the sense that like they won't lose their identity and like be completely different, But I feel like we'll see from an economical standpoint, I feel like Afghans 50 years from now, we'll see them as one of like the biggest and most uprising communities in terms of like financial wellness and economic stability, because a lot of the Afghans that have come here haven't had the opportunities. Not all Afghans will succeed, but I feel like a great majority of them will. So I could see Afghans being very successful across a lot of different industries 50 years from now. It'll be very common to see Afghan doctors, Afghan lawyers,
Inshallah.
Afghan businessmen, just everywhere, I'm already starting to see it slowly now, and usually you'll see it with those Afghans that have been here for a long time. So 50 years from now, like the people that just came here or who are just born now, 50 years from now, I feel like it'll be very common.
Yeah.
So I only see a lot of good things 50 years from now.
Yeah.
There will definitely be some people who probably didn't make it, some bad apples. But, I think for the most part, the Afghans will be one of the stronger communities as a whole compared to how we are maybe now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. 50 years from now, I think based off of the population here, like the sheer size of the community, they're going to have a big impact. Whether it's good or bad, the impact's going to be there. I mean, we're seeing it today already. I feel like probably like from a different angle, because I agree with, most of what you said. From a different angle, I feel like there's going to be like this Afghan American, like I'm just going to speak on like Sacramento right now, because that's where we're from, like subculture. Right?
Okay.
There's going to be like this fusion, right? Just like, maybe the Irish had in Boston and the Italians had in, New York area where they had their own thing going on. I think there's gonna be like this like thriving subculture. I honestly think America's a great place for, you know, I mean, the country was built off of immigration, and I think it leaves space for people to get creative and to build community. So I think if the Afghan community capitalizes on that, I think there's gonna be like, I think, there's gonna be like a music scene here
Yeah.
in Sacramento. I mean, we've had it like Habib Qadri, he kind of came out of California, like
Right.
Habib Qadri and a lot of other famous Afghan singers. So I feel like we're gonna have like that music scene. I feel like we're gonna have like an art scene. Hopefully like a thriving like academic scene where maybe there's like centers for education for Afghans. So that's kind of a lot of what I'm looking forward to. I mean, we already have, a lot of mosques and stuff, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can see, Afghan scholars, giving back and educating the community with like Islamic values. So I think 50 years from now, I think there's going to be a lot of cultural retention, on top of a lot of growth. I think we see this a lot, like when immigrants first come to a country, like that first couple waves, they're so motivated and they see these opportunities and they work so hard. So I think 50 years from now, there's gonna be like a nice, like good peak, thriving businesses, and I think the scene will be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
150 years from now, initial thoughts, I think there will be a lot of assimilation. I think there'll be a lot of assimilation. I think there will definitely be people that have Afghan roots, but I think it's gonna be a lot of like religious like identity, like retention of that, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm Muslim. But I think, a lot of Muslim communities are gonna intermarry. I think there's gonna be a lot of like loss of language, but they're gonna keep what's probably most important to them. They might lose that Afghan identity, but I feel like they'll be like Muslim and like, oh yeah, I'm like a quarter Afghan, quarter Iraqi, quarter Pakistani. It's gonna,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's gonna turn into that, which, it is what it is. It's great. It's good.
It happens to everyone in America.
It happens. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you think America's gonna be around 150 years from now?
That's a good question. It might just be United counties of California.
Oh yeah, 150 years from now, that's I don't even know what America is gonna look like. I don't know what Afghanistan is gonna look like. Because to be honest with you, if Afghanistan was like functioning like really well economically and providing a lot of the same opportunities here, I mean, I'd prefer to live there than here. So it kind of ties back into even a little bit of like what Afghanistan as a country will look like 50 to 150 years from now.
Wait, quick question. Sorry. Are you saying that if Afghanistan develops, a lot of people are going to leave and go back?
That's hard to say. I can speak for myself and I'd say yes. It just depends. I don't know, because some people like the life in America and like living in a country that separates religion from state. So I can't speak for everyone.
They say they do.
They say they do, yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. 50 years is a Afghanistan could look completely different.
Yeah.
But I do see a group of people that would move back. I got people in my own family like
Yep.
like older heads who they would go back right now. You know.
Yep.
And if you're telling me the country is gonna be like 50 years from now, like 20 times better from an economical standpoint, security, all that, yeah, I could see a lot of people leaving. Because after a while, after a while living in America, there's so much degeneracy that happens in this country that the older you get, you kind of want to get away from it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits, like when you live in a country like Afghanistan, that like you don't have to be around that kind of stuff,
It's at least it's not on public display.
Exactly.
It's not being promoted publicly.
Exactly.
It might exist, but it's not going to be out in the open. It'll be something that's looked down upon by everyone, not promoted.
Yeah, yeah. And that stuff, like, the older you get, like I said, it gets more and more valuable to someone who's trying to raise a family, if you're someone who's becoming more religious, that kind of stuff hold more value, so you'd rather move somewhere like that. So I could definitely see it, especially a lot of these Afghans, if they still have family there, like, there's a reason to go back.
Yeah.
But we'll just see.
I sometimes think about it like, man, what would happen if I moved to like Qatar or like Turkey or something like that? Just to get away from the same things that you just kind of talked about and touched on. And it's like, okay, well, like Turkey, the like you have to go learn a whole new language because, they speak Turkish, With Qatar, you're like, man, it's the desert, it's going to be hot. But if Afghanistan could provide the economic of like, Qatar and like the natural beauty of Turkey, which it has.
Yep.
Plus you can go there and you'll be, you know the language, it is a great option. It hasn't been an option for a lot of Afghans, because it's just, like you said, economically not feasible. And security-wise, I think it's been the main thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't know about the future of Afghanistan. It's just not secure. Like, let's say I want to go back. I probably can't go back and just find a job right away. I might have to start like a business. But who's going to guarantee me that if I start a business there, that there's not going to be a change in government 2 years from now and I lose everything again?
Yeah.
Or there's going to be another civil war, or there's going to be, So I think you have a good point. If Afghanistan becomes stable, security's there, economics, even if it's not the best, but it's stable, I think a lot of people could move back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, that's not even just the Afghans in America, right? I mean, of all the countries that the Afghans could have moved to from being displaced, America's probably up there, like in the top 5. Think about all the Afghans that moved to other countries.
Yeah.
They would probably definitely come back.
Yeah, they definitely would.
They would definitely come back. I know we were talking specifically about Afghans here in America, but
no, but that's a good topic, because the way America is, it's built to assimilate and bring the immigration populations in and hold on to them, and they become American. But if we want to look at it at a larger scale, a lot of other countries, they don't naturalize citizens. They don't let you just become a citizen. They want you to stay an immigrant. Know you're an immigrant. You're never going to be one of them. You're here for now. It's temporary. You're going to have to go back at some point. So we have another fact here. Let's see, where is it? It's about Iran and Pakistan. So the UN High Commissioner for Refugees estimated that there's 5.7 million Afghan refugees worldwide as of 2023, and the majority of them are in Iran and Pakistan. 3.4 in Iran, 1.9 million in Pakistan. The people there are definitely going to go back if things get fixed, because I'm sure a lot of them love those countries too. A lot of them were probably raised there. They probably have great friends, but on a policy level, the state hasn't accepted these people. The state hasn't given them the full equal rights. So if they get that back home, definitely they'll probably go. The only issue I see with a country like America is you do have a lot of those equal rights, a lot of those equal opportunities. Policy wise, right? They do give you like that 100% equality. The only problem I see about people wanting to go back, and it's something that like I like think about myself, is not just Afghanistan, but if I go back to any other, like move to any other country actually, is the relationships and the community here.
Yeah.
Because that's what, like, that's what we crave, and
Right.
that's what we look forward to. Like, look, all week we look forward, when are the boys gonna come on the weekend so we can, like, get some food and chop it up. So that's the one thing. Although I feel like even if the economy's good there, the stability there, everything's there, but then everyone you know and love is here. That's the one thing that I think stops people from going.
I agree. I think once you get assimilated in America, it's like a system that it's hard to break out of. Like,
Yeah.
they have a term in business called the golden handcuffs. That's a similar term you could use here in America, because it's like if you're actually planning on leaving, like you are giving up a lot of things. You're giving up a lot of things.
That's a great point.
So I see it being very, very difficult for people to leave from here. But like people from Pakistan and Iran, like I guess, yeah, like you said, people leaving from there easily, because the government style isn't that different. The lifestyle isn't that different in those countries that would make people want to not go to Afghanistan, especially if they're being discriminated against, if they're not given the same rights as the citizens there. That's easily a lot of people that would go back to Afghanistan once things are more stable. America is just hard. It's hard, For young people and people like in the middle of their life, it's hard. For I think older people like in their 60s, 70s, like who don't really have like a lot of things that like are dependent on them, or they have a lot to lose. For them, yeah, it's like an easy transition to go back to Afghanistan. Someone who's like a dad whose kids are in the middle of like school, has a job, doesn't have a lot of money saved up, even though he probably prefers the lifestyle in Afghanistan, it's probably not feasible for him and his family to just go.
Yeah.
So I see that same struggle, and that's a lot of a big reason why I feel like a lot of people will end up staying. So I agree. Those other people in those other countries, though, like not just like Pakistan and Iran, but like I know there's a lot of Afghans in India. There's Afghans in like Russia,
Europe.
Europe.
But Europe might be a little bit of a golden handcuff situation.
Yeah, because it's similar to kind of America. But a lot of those other countries, I could see them coming back as well.
This is completely off topic, but to your point, 150 years from now, I don't know if Europe is Europe anymore, Like things are not looking great. But okay, let's talk about something else that I was like I found interesting. So I'm gonna read a little short excerpt from this article. And it says that Afghan immigrants are on average much younger than both the overall foreign-born population and the U.S.-born population. Their median age in 2022 was 31 years compared to 47 years for all immigrants and 37 for the native-born. This is due to the high share of Afghan children. So that's their explanation of why they are on average, Afghan immigrants are on average younger. Their explanation is this is due to the high share of Afghan children. 30% of Afghan immigrants were under 18 versus only 6% of the overall foreign-born population. So compared to the U.S.-born, Afghans were more likely to be of working age, 18 to 64 years old, and 64% versus 58%. Honestly, I don't know what they're talking about in the last sentence that I just read. Main point. Afghan immigrants are on average much younger. Their explanation, there's more children. What do you think about that?
I think it's true because just separate like I know people in America don't have as many children as people back home do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's number one, like the thing we're dealing with.
But it's being compared to other immigrants.
To other immigrants?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So based off of
fact.
immigrants, Afghan immigrants are younger than, let's say, Filipino immigrants.
Okay. I feel like you want to jump into that controversy.
Might have to. Well, okay, so they say it's because they have more children, right?
Right.
A high share of children.
But I know, yeah, Afghans usually.
But what accounts for as a child?
Sorry, say it again.
What accounts for someone to be a child?
Their age.
Under 18, right?
Under 18, yeah.
So I think that's where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, we know Afghans have a history of lying about their age
Yeah,
when they
just
come here.
not too much, just like 10, 15 years.
Nothing major. So one reason that I've heard, and I want to hear from you, from like my own experience of talking to people, I know usually parents for their children, they lower the age because they want them to come to America and start school.
Mm-hmm.
So they want them to get as many years of schooling as possible. So like if their son is 17, they want to put like 14 so they could at least go through all 4 years of high school instead of getting thrown into their senior year and then having 1 year of high school. So I know one of the reasons is education.
Yes.
Are there any other reasons?
Well, I think one thing, like, that's a really good point. Another one, I think, I can't confirm, but I've heard, and I don't know the specifics, but I've heard from multiple people say that when they were in the process of coming from Afghanistan to America, if they were like 20 or 21, for some reason, their ID, they had to go and change it to be like 16 or 17. They had to be under 18 for some reason. I think it might have something to do with, in their case, like a parent can bring all of their children under 18 potentially, something like that. But I do know of multiple cases where people have told me like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm supposed to be like 22 years old, but I came here like as a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? So I think it's good to sometimes take these numbers with a grain of salt and like really understand what's going on with the community and like why are these numbers saying what they are. They're right. The numbers, you know, they're right because they're saying there's more children. But how many of those kids are really under 18?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how this process works, so I don't know how that all gets handled. I just wonder who is telling them this information. Like, you know, when they're filling out the applications and stuff, how do they know to lower the age? Like for an educational purposes, how do they know that the high school systems, the way they work and stuff? Do you think that's all being done by like the works of people, like family members here who live here who are kind of sending that information to them?
Yeah, and I think back home in Afghanistan, there's like people are, you know, with like social media and like people are very aware of like how to do things, how to go about things the right way. Everybody helps each other a lot. I know they're like as soon as one person finds out like, oh, like this is how you fill out this form, or that you could fill this form out and do this, like they will send it to like a group chat full of everyone they know, you know, and then those people will send it. So like I think people help each other a lot, and you know, so I think that's also one of the ways like word gets around, I think, you know.
I agree, that does happen even here. I'm gonna share with you an interesting thing that I learned from work and from my coworkers. I don't know if you knew this, but this is a little bit unrelated, but it has to do with like the process of coming to America.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question first. Do you know anybody with the last name F and U?
I don't.
Okay. If you might run into some people down the line in your life. Their last name will say F and U, okay? And if you see anybody with this last name, the F and U stands for, I believe, first name unavailable, okay? But that's on their IDs and like on everything here documentation wise in America, that is put on their last name, okay? And this happens because in some countries, I was told this from one of my Indian coworkers, FNU is what America adds on to your full name if you don't have a last name in your country. Some people only have first names.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very common for some folks when they come here to have that as their last name. And I remember the first time I saw it.
You met someone?
Yeah, it was someone on my team at work.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I never said FNU though. I was like trying to pronounce it like a
Fnu?
word. Yeah, I was trying to say like FNU, and then everyone was saying her name, and then literally spelling out the abbreviation. And then I was just listening in one day, and then they were explaining that, and I was so mind blown. And then recently, I was God, what was it? I think it was a tournament I was hosting. I was looking at like the roster, and I saw that last name, FNU, and I was like, "Oh wow! I did not think I would run into someone with this again."
Oh, wow. So it's very common.
It's common, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how common it is, but like amongst like people who come to America, that is like something that they have in place. So, it's not common amongst Afghans. I've never run into an Afghan with that as a last name, but I think it's common amongst certain immigrant groups that come here from other countries.
So if they don't have a last name, for their last name they put FNU, but FNU means first name not available.
Yeah, which also maybe I'm not explaining that right, but it does stand for first name unavailable.
I mean, that makes sense. They probably have like some type of like system where it like takes in FNU, and they probably used it for some other purpose, but then when they ran into this issue, they just said, well, let's just use the same thing for that, for the last name. Maybe it has something to do with like system limitations or something like that.
Probably.
That's interesting. We have a lot of
because amongst the Afghans we have a lot of January 1st birthdays or December 31st birthdays.
Yep.
You think the people in the departments that work in this know what's going on?
100%. I'm sure they have like some insights.
But does it matter? Do you think it matters?
Like if that's really their birthday or not?
Yeah.
Nah, who cares?
Right?
Honestly, I don't think it's a big deal at all.
Wow.
Like in what aspect of your life? Like, it's good to know how old you are, right? But having like a general understanding, I think, is enough. Like how important is it really that you know exactly what day you were born on? What does it affect?
Not so much the day, but the year.
Yeah, the year I get. Like, it's good to know. Like, I think like when it comes to health, when it comes to these things, it's good to know when you were born, track your age, you know, like I know there's certain ages where you start becoming susceptible to like different like health issues.
Yeah.
It's always good to go get your checkups like at a certain age. Start taking different like vitamins and minerals and, you know, stuff just to keep yourself healthy. I think it's definitely good information to have. But I think like, especially when you get older, you don't even want to celebrate your birthday and stuff. Like at that point, it's like meaningless. Like,
yeah.
Like if I just know I was born this year and I'm this many years old, I just need a day to know that, okay, I'm no longer 25, you know?
Right.
I'm 26.
Bro, knowing someone who has a fake birthday is like, it's kind of funny because you're like, you always have to know both of their ages. You got to know the real age and then the fake age, you know?
Yeah.
We have a couple of guys in our friend group that have that.
For sure.
Because as a guy, you kind of have bad memory, so you don't know when their real birthday, like how old they actually are. But then you ask them what year they're born, and then you're like, oh, happy 27th birthday. And they're like, oh, no, I'm actually 24. Like,
Oh.
Never run into that?
I've ran into them being younger.
Well, yeah, younger, older, but like...
yeah.
You know, you don't actually know like how old they are.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask them. They're like, "Oh no, that's not my real age."
A lot of times, I think like people have told me how old they were recently. I've come across this, and for some reason, maybe it's because I'm getting older, so my perception of who looks old and who looks young has started to change. But I am like, no way, you're 37. You do not look 37. I thought you were 30. Or like, really? Oh, what? You're 35? I swear I thought you were like 24. I don't know why.
Amongst Afghans?
Yes. Like people I know personally.
And that's their real age?
That's their real age, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's like a psychological thing because I'm
Yeah.
getting older too. So like my perception might be changing of like who looks old, who looks young. Maybe because I'm getting older, like I still see myself as a young guy, young kid. So if you're like, if you look 35, really for me, you're just like 20, like 27, 28. But might be like a psychological thing.
I'm getting the opposite because now, like, I'm in like my mid 20s. I'll be hanging out with like some 19, 20-year-old, and it'll feel like I'm hanging out with like people my age, and then something will happen. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm still in first year of community college," and I'm like, "I forgot you were 19."
I don't like, bro. The other day I was saying like, oh, like 7 years ago in high school, and I caught myself like, what? That was 7 years ago? It doesn't even feel like that.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like I've graduated and this and all these, different milestones and stuff. Like, I don't know. It just feels like community college, high school was all like just yesterday.
Yeah. I mean that's why there's a good saying, like why wouldn't you go to high school and finish college? Because it's such a small portion in your life
Yeah.
when you look at it from a whole picture, So like it's like 4 years feels like nothing after it's gone.
Okay, let me wrap this up with a question based off what you just said. Do you recommend college for everyone?
For everyone?
Yes. Or let me put it this way, 80% of people.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Because the exceptions always exist.
Yeah. No, I think there's a big misconception, and like it's being promoted that college is bad and like you shouldn't
Yeah.
go to college, and I think that is so far from like the truth. At one point, I was believing it, but I think it's so not true. I think you can go to college, but do it in a smart way. Like, don't just be reckless. Go to like any college without an actual plan, and then get yourself into student debt, major in something that you don't care about, and then you can't find a job. Because then, yeah, that's dumb. Like,
Yeah.
If you do that, then
Yeah.
I don't think you should have done that, and that's
Yeah.
a bad plan. You probably just set yourself back a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But for most people, like when you graduate high school, college is a great place and opportunity to learn as you figure out who you are as a person, what your interests are. And again, like I said, you can do it in a smart way. You can go to community college for 2 years. You don't have to go broke or like break yourself in the
Mm-hmm.
process. And then finish another 2 years of college at a university, and then you're good and you're done. And it only opens more doors, It only opens more doors, and that's why I see the value in it and why most people should go. Some people don't need it, right? That's where the 20%, like
Mm-hmm.
some people just are not school people,
Mm-hmm.
I've met people like that, and if it's not for you, like, yeah, don't waste your time. It's only gonna set you back. And some people don't need it, Some people are just driven self-entrepreneurs, like they find their own path, their own way.
Mm-hmm.
But for the average person, and you know this, you run into people who think like, I don't need school.
Yep.
I don't need school. Like, I'm gonna find my own way. But like they can't find their own way.
Yeah.
And then they're just stuck in the same spot for years. So I think if you don't know what you want to do in life, going to college is a great place to find out and do something valuable and gain some insights along the way. And then if you find out college is not for you, you can always just leave and pivot and do something else.
Right. And honestly, I think this is such a big and great topic. And I think we're both so passionate about this. I have so much to say right now. I'm not going to say anything. I honestly think we should have a whole episode about college and giving, a little bit about our experience and like, maybe some recommendations that we have or advice. I'm also like a strong believer in like go to college. I'm not going to give my explanation now. I honestly think we should have an episode on this, but there's a lot of people out there that, are losing kind of faith in college. A lot of it is like politically motivated. People think, colleges are becoming like super liberal, left leaning. I guess the one point I will bring up is college teaches you to self-study, self-learn, and critical thinking. So you don't have to go in there and pick up on your professor's ideology or the people around you. You can go there and get those tools and go do your own research. So if you know, if that's your kind of like your biggest worry, like that's not really the case, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, super recommend it. General education, just learning about different things, meeting new people. It's a great experience, but I think there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah.
So I think we'll definitely have an episode on that.
No, definitely. It's a very big topic that has a lot of different angles that could be talked from.
Absolutely. And with that said, we'll wrap it up here. Please, you guys, if you guys enjoyed the conversation, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I know there was a couple things that we weren't sure about, like about how the system works. Like, why do people have to put themselves as under 18, like for families to move here? If enlighten us, leave us some feedback. So we'd love to interact with you guys. And thank you for watching.
Oh, thank you. Another great episode. Look forward to talking more.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at the Majlis Podcast. We would love your support, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe.